The repair shop sat in the lower levels of Harmony Nexus Station, where the air smelled like oil and metal. Wiped his hands on a rag and looked at the broken gravity regulator in front of him. It was old, probably older than most of the aliens who walked past his shop every day. But he could fix it. He always could. "I brought the parts you asked for," said, scuttling through the doorway on 6 thin legs. The young alien's shell was still bright green, not yet dulled by years of work. Had been working with for 3 months now, learning how to repair the thousands of different machines that kept a space station running. "Good, put them on the bench," said. His voice was quiet like always. He didn't talk much. Most people on the station knew him as the human mechanic who kept his head down and did his work. Nothing special, nothing interesting. Set down the box of parts and leaned closer to watch. "How do you know which wire goes where? There are so many." His fingers moved without hesitation, connecting wires and adjusting circuits. "Practice. You do something long enough, your hands remember even when your mind doesn't." The station around them hummed with life. Harmony Nexus was home to 47 different species. It had been built 15 years ago, after the war ended. The Human War. 5 years of fighting that had scared the galaxy enough to make everyone agree that they needed to work together. Now, humans and dozens of other species all lived and worked on stations like this one. Had arrived on Harmony Nexus 7 years ago. He'd opened his small shop, fixed things, and mostly kept to himself. His apartment was small. His life was simple. That was how he liked it. A woman's voice called from the entrance. Sara walked in, her hair tied back in a neat ponytail. She worked in the diplomatic section of the station, helping to solve problems between different species. She was one of the few humans actually talked to. "Have you heard about the seminar tomorrow?" Frowned. "What seminar?" "The Galactic Military Academy is doing a presentation. They're showing battle footage from the war. Historical analysis, they're calling it." Sara picked up a tool from the bench and turned it over in her hands. "They want everyone to attend. Part of the Understanding Our Shared Past initiative." His hands stopped moving just for a second, then he went back to work. "I'm busy." "Come on, it's been 15 years. The war is over." "I know it's over." Sara sighed. "Is going, he asked me to convince you, says we should go as a group, show species unity or something." Worked in the engineering section, managing the station's power systems. He was young, maybe 30, and he'd never been in the war. Too young. He didn't understand what it meant to some people. "I don't need to see battle footage," said. "I was there." "So was I," Sora said quietly. "Medical Corps, remember. I saw what came back from the battles, but they're saying this footage is special. The ghost of VII. You heard about that, right?" Everyone had heard about that. Even aliens who weren't born when the war happened knew the story. One human soldier, alone on a colony world, holding off an entire battalion for 3 days. Saved 2,000 civilians long enough for rescue ships to arrive. No one knew who the soldier was. The records had been lost, destroyed in the chaos of the war's final days. "I heard," said. "Well, they found the footage. Tomorrow they're going to analyze it. Military historians from 6 different species. Should be interesting." Santini perked up. "The ghost of VII, I've read about this. Is it true one human defeated 500 soldiers?" "Stories get bigger with time," muttered. "But something happened there," insisted. "Something incredible. I want to see the footage. Can I go to the seminar?" Sara smiled. "It's open to everyone. You should go, learn some history." Wanted to say no. He wanted to tell them all to leave it alone, that the past should stay in the past. But he knew how these things worked. The more you avoided something, the more people noticed. The more they asked questions. "Fine," he said, "I'll go." Sora looked surprised. "Really? You'll just keep bothering me if I don't." She laughed. "True. I'll meet you outside the assembly hall tomorrow at 1800 hours. Don't be late." After she left, went back to work, but his hands weren't as steady as before. noticed. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, just thinking." That night in his small apartment, stood by the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was VII. He hadn't thought about that place in years. He'd worked hard not to think about it. The station's lights reflected off the glass, and for a moment he saw a different face looking back at him. Younger, harder, covered in dirt and blood. He blinked and it was gone, just him again. Older now, with gray in his hair and lines on his face that hadn't been there before the war. He'd built a good life here, a quiet life. He fixed things, he helped people, he didn't hurt anyone anymore. But tomorrow, they were going to show the footage. He wondered if he'd recognize himself. The next day came too fast. Worked in his shop until the last minute, then cleaned his hands and changed his shirt. Had already left early, excited to get a good seat. Walked slowly through the station corridors, taking his time. When he reached the assembly hall, Sara was waiting with. The younger man waved enthusiastically. "Good to see you. I wasn't sure you'd actually come." "I said I would." "Yeah, but you say a lot of things," grinned. He meant it as a joke but just nodded. It was true. He did say a lot of things. Most of them were ways to avoid talking about what really mattered. They walked into the hall together. It was packed. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species filled the seats. On the stage, a large screen waited, dark for now. Military officials stood ready, wearing uniforms from the Galactic Coalition. Found a seat in the back. Sora sat beside him with on her other side. Around them, people talked excitedly. Aliens who had never seen a human until after the war. Young humans who only knew peace. Veterans like him and Sora who knew better. The lights dimmed. A military consultant walked onto the stage. His scales were dark blue, and he moved with the careful precision of a trained warrior. Recognized the type. He'd fought people like this. "Welcome," they said. His translator made his voice sound smooth, almost friendly. "Today, we examine one of the war's greatest mysteries, the soldier known only as the ghost of VII. The footage you are about to see has never been shown publicly. It is incomplete, damaged by time and poor storage, but what remains is remarkable." The screen came to life. His hands gripped the armrests of his seat. It was beginning. The screen showed static at first, then cleared to reveal a burning landscape. VII. The colony had been small, just a mining operation with families. The footage came from a damaged security drone that had somehow kept recording through everything that happened. "What you see here is day one," the historian explained. "The colony had been evacuated, but the ships could only take half the population. 2,000 civilians remained, mostly in the underground shelters. The battalion arrived to claim the planet. Standard occupation procedure." The image shifted. Saw soldiers moving through streets, their weapons ready. They were professional, organized. They expected the colony to be empty except for the shelters. Easy pickings. Then the first soldier fell. "Here," the historian said, pausing the footage. "The first casualty. Projectile weapon, human design. Fired from approximately 200 meters. The shooter is not visible in any of our recordings." They played it forward. More fell, each time from a different direction, each time with no sign of the shooter. The soldiers began to panic, firing at shadows, calling for support. Leaned forward in his seat. "One person did that." "Watch," Sora whispered. The footage jumped to a new time stamp. Night had fallen. They had set up defensive positions, thinking they faced a large resistance force. The screen showed an ammunition depot, guarded by 10 soldiers. Then smoke grenades went off. In the confusion, a figure moved through the frame so fast that the camera barely caught it. When the smoke cleared, the guards were unconscious, and half the ammunition was gone. "The soldier used equipment against them," the historian explained. "We've identified 14 instances of this throughout the siege. Stolen weapons, stolen armor pieces, stolen communications devices. This human adapted constantly. Stared at the screen. He remembered that night. The smoke had burned his throat. His hands had shaken as he'd stripped the armor off an unconscious. He'd been terrified they would wake up. Day 2, the historian continued. The footage showed the colony's power station. Engineers worked to restore it. Then explosions tore through the facility. Not the whole building, just the parts that needed. The civilian sections, underground, stayed intact. Surgical strikes, commented another speaker, a military expert. This soldier had training, real training, not militia, not a civilian volunteer. Indeed, they agreed. We believe this was a special forces operative, possibly left behind deliberately. Closed his eyes briefly. Nobody had left him behind deliberately. He'd missed the last evacuation ship because he'd been helping a child find her mother. When he'd reached the landing pad, the ship was gone. They were coming. He'd had two choices: hide with the civilians and hope for rescue, or fight. He'd fought. The most remarkable footage comes from day 3, the historian said. The screen showed the civilian shelters. Soldiers had finally located them and were preparing to breach the doors. 2,000 people inside, trapped. The commander was visible in the footage, giving orders. Then chaos. Explosions came from everywhere at once. Not big enough to harm the shelters, but perfectly placed to scatter the forces. In the confusion, the figure appeared again. This time, the camera caught more detail. A human in mismatched armor, carrying a rifle and a human blade, moving between enemies like water, never staying in one place long enough to be hit. The style was brutal, efficient. No wasted movement. Every action had a purpose. The audience in the assembly hall gasped. Even the other humans looked shocked. "How is that possible?" someone whispered. Watched himself on the screen. He looked like a stranger, like someone he used to know but didn't anymore. That person had been running on fear and adrenaline with no sleep for 3 days. That person had been doing impossible things because the alternative was watching innocent people die. The footage showed the retreating, regrouping. They'd lost 40 soldiers in 10 minutes. The human had vanished again. And here, the historian said, we reached the final sequence. Day 3, late evening. Rescue ships had finally arrived in orbit, but they needed time to land and load the civilians. The angry and humiliated had called for artillery support. They were going to destroy the shelters rather than let the humans escape. The footage showed a human figure running across open ground toward the command post. Weapons fire came from every direction. Impossible to survive. But the figure kept moving, zigzagging, using terrain and smoke for cover. Reached the command post. Threw something inside. The artillery stopped. The soldier disabled their communications and targeting systems, the historian explained. Held that position for 17 minutes alone against an entire battalion, long enough for the rescue ships to evacuate everyone. The screen showed a final image. The human figure kneeling beside the command post, rifle empty, surrounded by unconscious or wounded soldiers. Then rescue ships appeared in the sky and the figure collapsed. The footage ended. The assembly hall was silent. Then everyone started talking at once. "I don't believe it," said. "One person couldn't do all that." "The footage doesn't lie," said an alien in the row ahead. "But how? Humans are not physically superior to. How did one survive against 500? A young human officer named stood up. Didn't know him, but he recognized the type. Young, confident, proud. "Because humans are warriors," said loudly. "When we fight for something we believe in, we're unstoppable. This soldier proved what humanity is capable of." Several aliens looked uncomfortable. Some looked frightened. Understood why. They were realizing that humans, their neighbors and friends, could be dangerous, very dangerous. Sora noticed hands. He was gripping the armrest so hard his knuckles were white. She whispered, "Are you okay?" He couldn't answer. He was watching the crowd debate his actions like they were analyzing a game, like those 3 days hadn't nearly broken him, like he hadn't had nightmares for years afterward. The historian spoke again. "We have attempted to identify this soldier through records, but all files from that operation were corrupted or destroyed. We know they survived because the rescue ships recorded taking one injured soldier from the command post, but their name, rank, and current location remain unknown." "Probably dead by now," someone commented. "That kind of combat takes a toll." "Or living in peace," said another voice. "The war ended 15 years ago. They could be anywhere." Stood up suddenly, "I need air." He walked out before Sora could stop him. The corridors outside the assembly hall were empty. Everyone was inside, watching, debating. He leaned against a wall and tried to breathe normally. That wasn't him on the screen. It couldn't be. That person had been a soldier, a weapon. He was a mechanic. He fixed things. He lived quietly. But the footage didn't lie. Appeared in the doorway, antennae twitching with concern. "Why did you leave? The analysis is still happening." "I've seen enough." "But it's fascinating. The way that soldier fought, the tactics, the improvisation. I've never seen anything like it. Do you think they're still alive? Do you think they're out there somewhere?" Looked at his young assistant. Eyes were bright with admiration, with wonder, seeing war as something exciting, something glorious. "I hope they found peace," said quietly. "Don't you want to know who they are?" "No," pushed off from the wall. "I'm going back to the shop. Tell Sora I'll talk to her tomorrow." He walked away, leaving confused in the hallway. Behind him, through the walls, he could still hear the assembly hall discussing the ghost of VII. None of them recognized him. He'd sat right there and nobody knew. Maybe it was better that way. But as walked through the station, he realized something was changing. The footage was out now. People would talk about it, wonder about it, search for answers. His quiet life was about to get complicated. Couldn't stop thinking about the footage. For 3 days after the seminar, the young alien watched it again and again on the public archives. Every move, every decision, every impossible moment. The ghost of VII had become obsession. "You're watching it again?" asked another intern, a floating jellyfish-like being named who worked in the station's botanical section. "There's something I'm missing," said, antennae twitching with concentration. "Look at this part. The way the soldier moves around that corner, it's not random. There's a pattern." "It was 15 years ago. Why does it matter?" "Because someone out there is a hero and doesn't know we're grateful. Or maybe they do know, but they're hiding. Either way, I want to find them." Drifted closer to the screen. The military said all the records were destroyed. "Not all records," said. "Service records, yes, but what about medical files, casualty reports? The rescue ships had to log who they picked up." "That's confidential information." "I know someone in medical archives." Spent the next week searching. It was harder than expected. Most files from the war were sealed, marked classified, or simply gone, but was patient and persistent. Slowly, pieces came together. The rescue ships from VII had picked up 2,043 civilians and 1 military personnel. The soldier had been badly injured, unconscious. Medical notes said broken ribs, concussion, severe dehydration, multiple lacerations and burns. But no name, just a registration number, and that number led to a file that had been redacted. Hit a wall. Meanwhile, in the repair shop, tried to work as if nothing had changed, but everything felt different. People looked at him strangely now, though he told himself he was being paranoid. Nobody knew. How could they? "You're doing it wrong," said, watching him work on a circuit board. Looked down, his student was right. He'd crossed 2 wires that should never touch, a beginner's mistake. He fixed it silently. "Are you feeling okay?" asked. "You've been distracted since the seminar." "I'm fine." You left early that day. Did the footage upset you? I know you fought in the war. A lot of people fought in the war. But not everyone saw combat like that. The Ghost must have been special forces, right? Elite training, years of preparation. Do you think you ever met them? His hand slipped and the tools scraped across his palm. Not deep, but enough to draw blood. He wrapped it in a cloth. I need to finish this alone, he said. Take a break. The young alien hesitated, then left, sat in his quiet shop and looked at his bleeding hand. It was shaking. That evening, Sara came to visit. She brought food, a container of homemade soup that smelled wonderful. His apartment was small and plain with few decorations, just a place to sleep and eat. You've been avoiding me, Sara said, setting out bowls. I've been working. She sat down across from him. I know you. We served in the same war, remember? I saw your face during that footage. He didn't respond, focusing on the soup. You recognize something, Sara continued. Maybe the place, maybe the tactics, maybe something else, and it's eating at you. Why did they have to show it? Asked quietly. The war is over, why dig it all back up? Because people forget, and when they forget, they make the same mistakes. Sara reached across the table, putting her hand over his. But I understand. Some memories are better left alone. I knew someone there, said finally. At VII, not well, just someone I saw once. It wasn't quite a lie. He had known someone there, himself. A younger version who'd thought he could save everyone. Sora nodded, accepting the answer. Did they make it out? Yes, but they were different after. We all were. They ate in comfortable silence. Sara didn't push for more information. That was one thing appreciated about her. She understood that some stories weren't ready to be told. But across the station was still digging. The young alien had found something interesting, movement records. After the war, the soldier from VII had been in a military hospital for 6 months. Then they'd been discharged with honors. After that, the trail went cold for a year. Then 7 years ago, a human named had registered as a resident on Harmony Nexus, applied for a business license, opened a repair shop. Pulled up's file. Age 48, previous occupation military service, details classified. It couldn't be, was so ordinary, so quiet. The person in that footage had been a force of nature, unstoppable. How could they be the same? But the dates matched, and now that thought about it, there were other things. The way he moved, always aware of his surroundings. How his eyes constantly scanned exits and entrances. The scars on his hands and arms, barely visible but there if you looked. And something else. Pulled up the footage again, focusing on one clear moment where the soldier's fighting style was visible. Then thought about watching in the shop, the way he moved when reaching for tools, the efficiency of every gesture. The same economy of motion, the same unconscious precision. His antennae drooped. If this was true, if really was the ghost, then what? The soldier had clearly wanted to disappear, to live quietly. Revealing the truth would destroy that peace. But before could decide what to do, everything changed. A new ship docked at Harmony Nexus. It was a military vessel, which wasn't unusual, and humans lived together now, worked together. The war was history. But the who stepped off the ship was different. His name was, and he was young for a warrior, probably the equivalent of mid-20s. He wore traditional armor, not a uniform, and he carried himself with the dangerous grace of someone who lived for combat. Within hours, word spread through the station, was looking for the ghost of VII. I have come to issue a challenge, announced in the station's central plaza. Crowds gathered to listen. The warrior who fought my people with such skill deserves to face me in honorable combat. I have studied the footage. I have trained for this my entire life. If the ghost lives, I call them to meet me. Who was in the crowd laughed. That's crazy. Nobody even knows who the ghost is. They're out there somewhere, insisted, and I will find them. The set up camp in a public area, making it clear he wasn't leaving until he got his challenge. Heard about this and felt panic rising. If started investigating, asking questions, checking records, he might find what had found. He might identify. The young alien rushed to the repair shop. Was working on a power regulator, his movements calm and precise. Music played softly from a small speaker, something classical and peaceful. Said breathlessly, "There's a warrior on the station. He wants to fight the ghost of VII. His hands paused for just a moment. I heard. He says he won't leave until he finds them. Then he'll be disappointed." Went back to work. Nobody knows who that soldier is. Watched him carefully. "Can I ask you something, and will you tell me the truth?" "That depends on the question." "The person from the footage, the one you said you knew, was it you?" Silence filled the shop. The music played on, gentle and quiet. Outside, the station hummed with its usual activity, people going about their lives, unaware that a legend worked among them. Set down his tools, he looked at with tired eyes. "Why do you want to know?" "Because if it is you, that is going to find out eventually, and you should be prepared." "I'm not that person anymore," said. "Haven't been for a long time." "But you were," said softly. "You were the ghost." Turned away, looking out the shop window at the people passing by. "I was a scared soldier trying to keep people alive. That's all. The rest is just stories people tell." The footage shows. The footage shows 3 days out of my entire life. 3 days when I had no choice but to fight or watch everyone die. It doesn't show the nightmares after, the hospitals, the therapy, the years it took to remember how to live without looking over my shoulder every second. His voice was quiet but firm. "I came here to escape that, to be normal, to fix things instead of breaking them." "I understand," said, "and I won't tell anyone, but that warrior out there is serious. He's checking records, asking questions. Someone is going to put the pieces together. Then I'll deal with it when it happens." But the next morning, his life changed forever. The station's communication system broadcast an emergency announcement. Military researchers had recovered more footage from VII. Using advanced AI reconstruction, they'd enhanced the images. And they'd identified the soldier. The broadcast would air in 2 hours. The ghost's identity would finally be revealed. Stood in his repair shop, listening to the announcement repeat over the station's speakers. 2 hours. In 2 hours, everyone would know. He could run, pack a bag, take the next transport off the station, disappear again. He'd done it before, but where would he go? How many times could a person run before they realized they were just carrying their past with them? His hands were shaking. He put down the tool he was holding before he could drop it. His voice was gentle. The young alien had stayed after hearing the news. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know." The shop door opened. Walked in, his face pale. Behind him came Sara. They both looked at with eyes that held too much understanding. "How long have you known?" asked them. Sat down heavily on a workbench. "I suspected for about 6 months. You move wrong, you know, too aware, too controlled, like someone who's been trained to fight. I thought maybe special forces, but I didn't know which operation." "I knew from the moment I met you," Sora said quietly. "I was a trauma medic during the war. I saw you in the hospital on Base 7. You'd been transferred from VII, unconscious for a week. When you woke up screaming, I was there." His chest felt tight. "You never said anything." "Because you didn't want me to." Sara moved closer. "You built a new life here. You earned that peace. I wasn't going to take it away from you." "The whole station is about to find out," said. "In 2 hours, my face is going to be on every screen. The ghost of VII living among them, working in a repair shop." "So what?" said. "You're still you. You're still the guy who fixed my emergency communicator at 3 in the morning when I needed it. You're still the person who taught everything about repair work. That doesn't change." "Everything changes," said. You saw how people reacted to the footage. Some were scared, some were excited. None of them understood what it really was. Now they're going to look at me and see a weapon, a killer. You saved 2,000 people, said. I killed to do it. His voice was rough. You think I'm proud of that? You think I wanted to become that person? I did what I had to do, and it broke something inside me. I spent years learning how to be human again, how to touch things without calculating how to break them, how to look at people without assessing threats. The door opened again. A woman walked in someone didn't recognize. She was human, young, with short black hair and determined eyes. Sergeant, she said formally. Don't call me that. Sorry, then. My name is, I work in station security. I've been sent to escort you to a safe location before the broadcast. Safe from what? From people who might want to meet you, or challenge you, or hurt you, glanced at the others. The station commander wants you protected. There's already a crowd gathering outside. Walked to the window, she was right. People filled the corridor outside his shop. Some were curious, some were excited. He even saw the warrior watching the shop with intense interest. I'm not hiding, said. Be reasonable, Sora started. No, he turned to face them all. I ran once, 15 years ago. I ran from who I was, what I'd done. I changed my name, my records, everything. I thought I could hide forever, but it didn't work. The past always finds you. What are you going to do? Asked. Watch the broadcast, face it, then see what happens next. Looked frustrated. My orders are to protect you. Then protect me here. This is my shop, my life. If it's all about to change, at least let me stand in the middle of it. The next 2 hours felt like days. Word spread through the station faster than fire. The ghost of VII wasn't just alive, they were here, on Harmony Nexus, living among them. Crowds gathered in every public space with a screen. The assembly hall filled completely. People stood in corridors, watching on their personal devices. Everyone wanted to see. Stayed in his shop. Sora and stayed with him. Outside, the crowd grew larger. Station security had to set up barriers to keep the corridor clear. Finally, the broadcast began. The screen showed the same footage everyone had seen before. The burning landscape, the impossible fighting, the lone soldier holding off an army, but this time the images were clearer. The AI reconstruction had filled in gaps, enhanced blurry sections. A military official appeared on screen. After extensive analysis and cross-referencing with recovered medical records, we have identified the soldier. His name is, currently 48 years old, formerly Sergeant of the Human Defense Forces, Special Operations Division. The screen showed a military photo, 15 years younger in uniform. Then it showed a current photo, taken from his residence registration on Harmony Nexus. Sergeant is believed to be living on a registered station or colony world. If you have information about his whereabouts, please contact the Galactic Military History Division. The broadcast ended. For a moment, there was silence across the entire station. Then chaos erupted. In the corridor outside the shop, the crowd surged forward. Station security struggled to hold them back. People were shouting, calling his name, demanding to see him. Get away from the window, ordered, but stayed where he was. He saw humans in the crowd looking proud and excited. He saw aliens, some looking frightened, others amazed. He saw reporters with cameras, military officials in uniform, historians with recording devices. And he saw the warrior pushing his way toward the front. His voice carried over the noise. I know you're in there. The crowd quieted slightly, curious to see what would happen. Took a breath, then he walked to the door. Don't, Sora said, but he was already opening it. The crowd fell silent as stepped into the corridor. He looked smaller than people expected, just a middle-aged man in work clothes, grease on his hands from the day's repairs. Not a warrior, not a legend, just a person. Stepped forward. The warrior was taller than, more muscular, armored and armed. He looked down at the human with intense eyes. "You are the ghost of VII," said. It wasn't a question. I work in a repair shop. You fought my people, defeated them with honor and skill. I have trained my entire life for the chance to face a warrior like you." His voice carried through the corridor. "I challenge you to combat, right now. Let us see who is truly the better fighter." The crowd murmured with excitement. Cameras recorded everything. This was the moment people had been waiting for. Looked at the young warrior. He saw the eagerness in his eyes, the anticipation. He saw someone who thought war was glorious, that combat was the highest achievement. He'd thought that too once, a long time ago. "No," said quietly. "No," looked confused. "You refuse to fight." "I refuse to fight," confirmed. "I'm not a warrior anymore. I haven't been for 15 years. But you're the ghost, you're a legend." "I'm a mechanic." His voice was tired but steady. "I fix things, that's what I do now, that's who I am." "You're afraid," accused. "Yes," said simply. "I'm afraid of becoming that person again. The one in the footage. The one who knew 100 ways to kill and only one reason to do it. I don't want to be that anymore." The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. "The ghost of VII was a soldier who had no choice," continued. 2,000 people were going to die if I didn't fight, so I fought. I did things I never thought I was capable of. I hurt people. I traumatized myself. And when it was over, I spent years trying to remember how to be a regular person." He looked around at all the watching faces. Humans, dozens of other species, all of them seeing him clearly for the first time. "You watched 3 days of footage and called it heroic. You know what I call it? The worst 3 days of my life. I saved those people, yes, but I couldn't save the 500 who died on the first evacuation ship. I couldn't save the children I found dead in their homes before I reached the shelters. I couldn't save my squad members who died holding the landing zone for the ships I missed." His voice cracked slightly, but he kept going. "So no, I won't fight you. I won't give you the glorious combat you want, because war isn't glorious. It's ugly and terrible, and it breaks everyone it touches. I came here to heal from that, to build something instead of destroying, and I'm not going back." Stood very still, processing this. The eager warrior who'd arrived on the station was seeing something he hadn't expected. Not a hero, just a tired man who'd survived hell. The corridor stayed silent for a long moment. Everyone was watching, waiting to see what the warrior would do. His hand rested on his weapon. His pride had been challenged, refused in front of hundreds of witnesses. Stood calmly waiting. He'd said what he needed to say. If attacked him now, he'd defend himself, but he wouldn't seek the fight. Then something unexpected happened. His hand moved away from his weapon. The warrior's aggressive stance softened. "You fear becoming that person again," said slowly, as if testing the words. "But why? That person saved lives, protected the weak, showed incredible skill." "That person had nightmares for 8 years, replied. "Woke up screaming, couldn't be in crowds without panicking, couldn't touch another person without flinching. That person was broken, and it took everything I had to put the pieces back together. I won't break myself again for entertainment." Tilted his head, studying. "My people see that battle as the ultimate test. We believed the ghost was the perfect warrior, someone who lived for combat. But you're saying you hated every moment." "Every single one." "Then why did you fight so well?" "Because I had to." His voice was quiet but clear. "Because if I didn't, people I'd sworn to protect would die. That's the only reason humans fight like that. Not because we love war, because we love what we're protecting." Something shifted in his expression. The eagerness faded, replaced by something more thoughtful. "In culture, we honor warriors above all else. We seek challenges to prove our worth, but you seek peace. I've proven everything I needed to prove. Now I just want to live." Was silent for several seconds. Then he did something that shocked everyone watching. He bowed, a deep gesture of respect. "I withdraw my challenge," said formally, "and I ask permission to understand." "Understand what?" "How a warrior becomes a peacemaker. How someone capable of such violence chooses gentleness. This is a strength I have never learned." The crowd murmured in surprise. Some looked disappointed that there would be no fight, but others, especially the older ones who remembered the war, nodded in understanding. A human voice called out from the crowd. It was the young officer who'd boasted about human military prowess during the seminar. "You're giving up, just like that. You're the ghost of VII, you should be proud." Turned to look at the young man. "I'm not ashamed of what I did. Those people survived because of my actions, but I'm not proud of it either. I did what was necessary in a terrible situation. That's all." "But you're a hero." "I'm a survivor," corrected. "There's a difference. Heroes in stories never talk about the therapy they needed afterward, or the friends they lost, or the weight they carry. Real people who do heroic things just want to forget and move forward." Sora stepped out of the shop to stand beside. "I was there in the medical facilities after the war. I saw hundreds of soldiers they'd all done incredible things. Saved lives, held positions, made impossible sacrifices. You know what most of them wanted when they recovered? Normal lives, quiet jobs, families, peace, because they'd seen enough violence to last several lifetimes." "Joined them. I never fought in the war. I was too young. But I've worked with veterans for years. The best ones never talk about their service unless they have to. They don't wear it like a medal. They carry it like a weight and try to move forward anyway." Scuttled out next, standing with the humans. "Taught me how to repair machines, but he also taught me patience, precision, and care. He taught me that taking time to do something right is better than rushing, that every broken thing deserves attention. I didn't know these were lessons from war. I thought they were just who he was." "They are who I am now," said. "The war shaped me, but it doesn't define me. I chose what to become after it ended." The security officer spoke up. "I have my orders to protect you, but I think you're doing a better job of that yourself by speaking honestly." The crowd was changing. The excitement for spectacle was fading. People were actually listening now, thinking about what was saying. A reporter pushed forward, camera active. "The galaxy has been searching for the ghost for 15 years. What do you want people to know?" Looked directly at the camera. "That war is not an adventure. It's not exciting or glorious. It's terrifying and painful, and it changes everyone it touches. The footage you saw shows me at my most dangerous, but it doesn't show me at my best. You want to know when I was at my best? Yesterday, when I taught how to fix a broken life support regulator. Last week, when I helped solve a power distribution problem. Every day that I choose to build instead of destroy." Another voice from the crowd. "Do you regret what you did?" "Thought about that carefully. I regret that it was necessary. I regret the soldiers who died because we were on opposite sides of a war. I regret the colonists who died before I could save them. But do I regret fighting to protect innocent people? No. I'd do it again if I had to. I just hope I never have to." Spoke again. "You said you would fight again if necessary. That means the warrior still exists inside you." "The capacity for violence exists in everyone," said. "Humans, all species. What matters is choosing when to use it and when to put it away. I keep that part of myself locked up tight, not because I'm ashamed, but because I know how destructive it can be." An elderly alien in the crowd, one of the few who'd lived through the war as an adult, spoke up. "I remember when the war ended, everyone was so relieved. We thought we'd never see violence like that again, but we also thought the soldiers would all be angry, dangerous. Instead, most of them just wanted to come home, open shops, raise families, live normal lives. We should have listened to them more." "We should have," agreed another alien. "They knew what we didn't. That peace is precious because they'd seen the alternative." The crowd was dispersing now. The spectacle was over, but something more important had happened. People were having conversations, thinking, understanding. Approached again. You said I could learn from you. I meant it. May I stay and observe? Raised an eyebrow. You want to watch me fix machines? I want to learn how a warrior finds peace. This is a skill my people value fighting, but maybe we should value this too. It's not exciting, warned. Good, I think I've had enough excitement. Over the next few days, life slowly returned to normal. Or at least, a new version of normal. People knew who was now, but most respected his boundaries. A few tried to get autographs or ask for stories, but Sara and ran interference. Went back to work in his shop, returned to learning, and surprisingly kept his word. The warrior spent his days watching work, asking quiet questions, learning patience. Why do you check every connection twice? Asked one day. Because if I miss something, the machine might fail. Someone could get hurt. Taking extra time now prevents problems later. In combat, we're taught to move fast, strike quickly. In combat, yes, but this isn't combat. This is maintenance. Different situations require different approaches. Nodded slowly. I'm beginning to understand. You apply warrior discipline to peaceful tasks. I apply the lessons I learn to everything I do. Some from military training, some from therapy, some from just living. Tightened a bolt with practiced ease. The goal isn't to forget who I was. It's to build something new with those experiences. 1 week after the broadcast, a young woman entered the shop. But she wasn't in uniform. She looked nervous. I'm off duty. I wanted to ask you something. Go ahead. I joined security because I wanted to help people, protect them. I've studied combat, trained with weapons, all of that. But after hearing you talk, I'm wondering if I'm approaching it wrong. How do you know when to fight and when to find another way? Set down his tools and gave her his full attention. You fight when there's no other option and innocent lives are at stake. Every other time you find a different solution. Talk, negotiate, compromise. Fighting should always be the last choice, not the first. But how do you know you've tried everything else? You probably can't know for certain. But if you're asking the question, you're already thinking about it the right way. The dangerous people are the ones who reach for violence without hesitation. Sat down on a workbench. People think being strong means being ready to fight, but you're saying real strength is choosing not to. Real strength is having the ability to cause harm and choosing not to, clarified. Anyone can be violent. It takes much more courage to be kind, especially when you're scared or angry. More people came with questions over the following weeks. Veterans who'd struggled with similar issues. Young people who wanted to understand. Even some who'd been afraid of at first but realized he wasn't a threat. Answered their questions patiently. He shared what he'd learned, the hard way, about healing from trauma and building a peaceful life. 3 months after the broadcast, was working late in his shop when approached with unusual seriousness. I've been accepted into the advanced engineering program. That's excellent, you've earned it. I'll have to leave the station, study on the academy world for 2 years. Felt a pang of sadness but smiled anyway. You'll do great things. I learned more from you than just repair work, said. You taught me that knowledge matters less than wisdom, that being skilled is less important than being thoughtful, that the best thing we can do is fix what's broken, whether that's machines or people or ourselves. Those are good lessons for anyone. I'll miss this shop. I'll miss working with you. I'll be here when you visit, promised. This shop isn't going anywhere. After left, stood in his quiet shop and looked around. 15 years ago, he'd arrived on the station broken and hiding. Now he stood in the open, known to everyone, and somehow that was okay. The past couldn't be changed. The ghost of VII would always be part of his history, but it wasn't all of who he was. He was a mechanic who fixed things, a teacher who shared knowledge, A man who chose peace every day, even when violence would be easier. That was enough. The door opened one more time that night. A young human woman stepped in, looking uncertain. She wore a new military recruit uniform. "Are you the one from the footage?" "I'm," he confirmed, not adding the rest. "My name is, I just enlisted. I'm about to start basic training and I wanted to. I don't know. I thought meeting you would inspire me, make me excited about serving." Studied her young face. She couldn't be more than 20, so young like he'd been. "Do you know why you enlisted?" he asked. "To protect people, to make a difference." "Good reasons," gestured for her to sit. "Let me tell you something they won't teach you in basic training. The goal isn't to become like the person in that footage. The goal is to be so good at your job that you never have to be. You train for the worst case, but you hope for the best. You develop skills you pray you'll never use. And if you do have to use them, you make sure it's only because every other option failed. But what if I need to be that good? What if people are counting on me? Then you'll do what's necessary, but don't chase it. Don't seek it out. The person in that footage wasn't trying to be a hero. They were trying to survive and keep others alive. That's the difference between a warrior and a soldier. Warriors seek glory. Soldiers do their job and hope to go home. Was quiet for a moment. That's not what I expected to hear. I know, people see the footage and think it's exciting. They don't see the aftermath. But if you're going to serve, serve with the goal of protecting peace, not seeking war. Learn everything you can. Be prepared for anything. But work toward a future where your skills aren't needed. Is that what you're doing now, working toward that future? Smiled slightly. Every day, by fixing machines, teaching students, and choosing gentleness over violence. It's not as dramatic as the footage, but it's honest work, real work. Stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. "Thank you, I think I needed to hear this." After she left, locked up the shop and headed home. The station's artificial night cycle had begun, dimming the lights to help people sleep. He walked through the quiet corridors, no longer looking over his shoulder, no longer calculating threats. Just walking, just living. The ghost of VII had become a story everyone knew, but had become something better. A person who'd survived hell and chosen to build heaven in the aftermath. One repaired machine at a time, one taught lesson at a time, one peaceful day at a time. And that, he finally understood, was the real victory.